She gave him her fortune. She bought him his political rank. And in return, he stood on the execution scaffold, wrapped in her expensive furs, and ordered her death by 1,000 cuts. Strap in, because this is the ultimate story of vengeance. Let's begin. The executioner's blade was freezing against the nape of my neck, but it was nothing compared to the ice in my husband's eyes. Lin Yao, Chen Mingzhi said, his voice dripping with the aristocratic disdain he had perfected using my silver. He stood on the high platform, impeccably dressed in the cloud-patterned brocade I had imported from the southern sea. For the crime of poisoning the imperial concubine, for the jealousy that drove you to murder my unborn heir, and for your inherent, treacherous merchant nature, you are sentenced to death by 1,000 cuts. I knelt in the dirty, blood-stained snow of the execution grounds, my wrists bound in heavy iron. The crowd below roared, throwing rotting cabbage and stones at me. Villainous. Vicious shrew. Filthy merchant. I spat a mouthful of blood onto the pristine white snow, my lungs burning. Murder? Jealousy. I rasped, my voice barely a whisper, yet straining with a hatred so deep it tore at my vocal cords. Chen Mingzhi, you hypocrite. I bought your rank. I fed your starving aristocratic family when you were begging in the streets. I gave you the Lin family fortune. Beside him, wrapped in a pure white fox fur cloak, stood my half-sister, Lin Wan'er. She leaned against him, the picture of delicate, sickly perfection. A flawless white lotus. Wan'er stepped down from the platform, her dainty embroidered shoes avoiding the mud. She crouched beside me, her sweet, pitiful mask dissolving into a smirk that chilled me to the bone. "Oh, dear sister," she whispered, her voice so low only I could hear. "Did you really think a lowly merchant's daughter could hold the title of a noble's main wife? Mingzhi never loved you. He just needed your key to the Lin treasury." "You framed me," I choked out, a stone from the crowd catching me hard on the temple. Blood trickled into my eye. "Of course I did," Wan'er giggled, her eyes glinting with a strange, unnatural golden light. "But it wasn't just your wealth we took, Yaoer. We took your destiny. The heavens decreed you had the fate of the phoenix. A destiny meant to birth emperors and rule the world. My mother and I used a Taoist blood curse to swap our fates. Your luck, your fortune, your destiny, it's all mine now. Thanks to you, I will be empress, and Mingzhi will be the highest official in the land." My breath hitched. Destiny swapped? All those years of sudden misfortune, my failing health, my business caravans mysteriously burning down while Chen Mingzhi skyrocketed through the political ranks with preternatural luck, it wasn't coincidence. It was theft. Chen Mingzhi walked down to join her, wrapping a protective arm around Wan'er's waist. He looked down at me with utter revulsion. "Execute this venomous woman. Make it slow. My other 4 wives at the hidden estate are waiting for me to bring them the deed to her remaining silk shops." For other wives? My vision swam. For 10 years, I had swallowed my pride, endured his mother's abuse, and exhausted my merchant empire to fund his career, believing I was his only love. All while he housed a secret harem on my dime and plotted with my sister to steal my very fate. The executioner raised his broadsword. "Chen Mingzhi, Lin Wan'er," I screamed, a blood-curdling sound that silenced the jeering crowd. "If I have a next life, I will strip you of everything. I will grind your bones to dust and pave my road to hell with your stolen fortune." The blade fell. The world dissolved into a blinding spray of crimson. Ding. Host vitals critical. Destiny swapping system initiated. Target identified, Lin Yao. Original fate, Golden Phoenix, currently 99% stolen. Rebirth sequence engaged. Objective, bankrupt the Scum, humiliate the White Lotus, reclaim the Phoenix fate. I gasped, my eyes snapping open as I bolted upright. My hands flew to my neck, expecting the geyser of blood, the tearing of flesh. But my skin was smooth, intact. I was not kneeling in the filthy snow. I was sitting on a plush mahogany bed, surrounded by sheer, pearl-strung curtains. The rich scent of expensive agarwood incense filled the air. What is this? I scrambled to the bronze mirror on the vanity table. Staring back at me was a face I hadn't seen in 3 years. My cheeks were full, my skin radiant, my eyes bright and unburdened by the poison that had slowly withered me in my past life. I was 22 again. "Welcome back, host," a cold, mechanical voice echoed directly inside my skull. A glowing blue translucent screen materialized in the air before me. System status, host, Lin Yao wealth, 10 million taels of silver, Lin family main treasury, Phoenix fate remaining, 1% current title, unfavored wife of Lord Chen, cannon fodder villainous. I stared at the floating blue screen, my modern sensibilities from reading countless folktales struggling to comprehend the reality. But the phantom pain of the executioner's blade was too real to be a dream. System? I whispered, my voice trembling with a mixture of shock and burgeoning, ecstatic rage. I'm back? I've actually returned. Affirmative. You have been returned to the 3rd year of the Tanchi era. Today is the day of the Lotus Pavilion Banquet. The day Lin Wan'er moves into your manor as a pitiful refugee, and the day Chen Mingzhi requests the keys to your main treasury. My blood turned to ice, and then, slowly, to boiling magma. The Lotus Pavilion Banquet. How could I forget? In my past life, my father had just passed away, leaving me the sole heir to the Lin merchant empire. Lin Wan'er and her vicious concubine mother had been kicked out by the clan elders. She had come to my door, weeping blood, begging for shelter. Chen Mingzhi had used my grief to manipulate me into handing over the golden abacus, the token that controlled my family's wealth, claiming he would manage it so I could mourn. That was the exact moment my fate was sealed. That was the day the destiny swap began to take effect. A cruel, sharp smile curved my lips. I reached out and touched the reflection in the mirror. Villainous, the crowd had called me. Fine, I whispered to the empty room. If they want a villainess, I'll give them a villainess that will make the devil himself weep. Ding. New quest issued. Deny the Scum husband the golden abacus. Face slap the white lotus. Reward, plus 5% Phoenix Fate reclamation, plus 100 system points. Madam. My loyal maid, Xiaoya, burst into the room, her face pale. She was alive. In my past life, Wan'er had her beaten to death for dropping a teacup. Madam, Lord Chen and your sister are in the main hall. They're asking for you. Second miss is crying so hard she's coughing up blood. I picked up a jade comb and calmly ran it through my long, dark hair. Let her cough. If she coughs up her lungs, bring 'em up. Xiaoya blinked, utterly stunned by my cold tone. I was usually frantic with anxiety over pleasing my husband and maintaining family harmony. Help me dress, Xiaoya, I commanded, my voice dripping with absolute authority. Put away those demure, pale robes. Bring me the crimson silk embroidered with gold thread. Bring out the ruby hairpin. If I was going to war, I would dress like the merchant queen I was born to be. 10 minutes later, I strode toward the main hall, the heavy silk of my crimson dress trailing behind me like a river of blood. As I approached the intricately carved doors, I could hear Chen Mingzhi's gentle, soothing voice. Don't cry, Wan'er. Yao is kind. She will let you stay. I will make sure you are treated like the true mistress of this house, once I secure her father's treasury. Mingzhi, you are too good to me, Wan'er whimpered, her voice a sickly sweet honey. I feel so guilty. Sister is just a merchant. Her mind is small and jealous. She doesn't understand your grand ambitions. Bang! I kicked the double mahogany doors open with such force they slammed against the walls, the sound echoing like a cannon shot. Chen Mingzhi and Lin Wan'er jumped apart. They had been sitting together on my imported velvet divan, his hand resting intimately on her thigh. Sister! Wan'er immediately dropped to the floor, producing a handkerchief out of nowhere to dab at her perfectly dry eyes. Sister, please forgive me. My mother and I have been cast out. We have nothing. Chen. Mingzhi frowned, straightening his robes. He looked at my crimson dress, a flash of distaste crossing his handsome, hypocritical face. Yao, what is the meaning of this dramatic entrance? And why are you dressed so gaudily? You are a noble's wife now, you must suppress these cheap merchant tendencies. In the past, those words would have made me flush with shame. I would have run to change. Now, I merely laughed. The sound was sharp, mocking, and entirely devoid of warmth. Cheap. I walked into the room, my eyes trailing over the exquisite furnishings. Lord Chen, the divan you are sitting on was imported from the West for 10,000 taels. The tea you are drinking is imperial tribute Longing, costing 100 taels an ounce. Even the silk drawers you are wearing underneath those robes were bought with my cheap merchant money. Chen Mingzhi's face turned purple. Lin Yao, how dare you speak to your husband this way? I am a third-rank official. A third-rank official whose entire estate is mortgaged to the Lin family bank, I reminded him smoothly, taking the seat at the head of the hall, his seat. I crossed my legs, looking down at the kneeling Wan'er. Speak, Wan'er. What do you want? Sister. Wan'er coughed, a delicate, fragile sound. She looked up at Chen Mingzhi with wide, pleading doe eyes, playing the victim perfectly. I only ask for a small courtyard in the corner of the manor. A place to rest my weary head. Wan'er is family, Yaoer, Mingzhi stepped in, puffing out his chest, radiating masculine authority. I have already decreed she will stay in the Peony Pavilion. The Peony Pavilion. The largest, most luxurious courtyard in the manor, which I had renovated specifically for my future children. The Peony Pavilion is currently being used to store my winter furs, I said flatly. If she wants to stay, she can sleep in the woodshed next to the kitchens. It suits a bastard daughter of a concubine perfectly. Lin Yao. Mingzhi roared, slamming his hand on the table. The teacups rattled. You have gone too far. You are vicious, jealous, and unfilial. Your father just died, and you cannot even manage a household. Hand over the golden abacus. I will manage the Lin family treasury from now on. You are clearly too emotionally unstable. There it was. The trap. I looked at his outstretched hand. I remembered the executioner's blade. I remembered his hidden harem of 4 other wives laughing as they spent my father's silver. Slowly, I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the golden abacus. It gleamed in the sunlight, a heavy, solid brick of pure gold and jade beads. Mingzhi's eyes widened with greed. Wan'er stopped her fake crying, staring at the item that represented ultimate wealth. Mingzhi reached out to take it. Instead of handing it to him, I raised the heavy gold abacus and smashed it violently across his perfectly aristocratic face. Crack. Mingzhi shrieked, stumbling backward as blood erupted from his nose, splattering across his pristine white robes. He crashed into a Ming vase, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. Brother-in-law. Wan'er screamed, dropping her delicate act and scrambling toward him. She glared at me, her mask slipping. Are you insane? You struck a court official. He can divorce you. He can have you beaten to death. Divorce? I stood up, towering over the 2 pathetic worms writhing on my expensive floor. I tossed the bloody abacus casually in my hand. Let him. But according to the imperial law, if a man divorces his wife without cause, he must repay her dowry in full. My dowry was 5 million taels. Lord Chen, do you have 5 million taels, or should I have the magistrate auction off your organs to pay me back? Ding. Phenomenal face slap. Scum husband humiliated. White Lotus terrified. Reward, plus 5% Phoenix Fate reclaimed. 100 system points awarded. System shop unlocked. Mingzhi held his bloody nose, his eyes wide with shock and fury. He had never seen me like this. I had been a docile lamb for 3 years. You bitch. You poisonous shrew. I will make you pay for this. Men. Guards. Seize her. Not a single guard entered. I smiled, a terrifying, venomous smile. They won't come, Mingzhi. I bought the guards. I pay their wages. In fact, I clapped my hands twice. Xiaoya entered, flanked by 4 burly merchant mercenaries I had hired from my father's caravan just moments before leaving my room. Throw the second miss into the woodshed, I commanded. Coldly. And lock Lord Chen in the study. Without my permission, he doesn't get a grain of rice or a drop of water. As the mercenaries dragged the screaming, bleeding pair away, I felt a rush of euphoric power. But my triumph was short-lived. The blue system screen flared a violent, flashing red. Warning. Fatal error. Host's drastic alteration of the timeline has triggered a hostile intervention. Chen. Mingzhi's stolen Protagonist Luck has passively activated. Assassin belonging to the Nightshade Pavilion is currently on the roof. Time until assassination. 10 seconds. Host has 0 combat ability. My breath caught in my throat. I looked up at the intricately carved wooden ceiling. A single tile shifted. Before I could even scream, the ceiling shattered. A shower of timber and dust exploded into the room, and a figure cloaked entirely in black dropped from the sky, a gleaming poison-laced dagger aimed directly at my heart. 5 seconds. The system counted down mercilessly. I was going to die again 10 minutes after being reborn. But just as the assassin's blade touched the silk over my chest, a second shadow blurred through the broken roof. A massive broadsword, glowing with a terrifying internal heat, clashed against the assassin's dagger with a deafening clang. Sparks rained down over my face as I fell backward onto the carpet. Standing over me was a man in midnight blue armor, his face obscured by a terrifying silver mask depicting a snarling demon. He smelled of rain, iron, and a strange, intoxicating masculine dominance. He didn't even look at me as he casually kicked the assassin through the thick brick wall of my manor, shattering it completely. The masked man slowly turned his head, his dark, dangerous eyes locking onto mine through the slits of his silver demon mask. "Well, little merchant," a low, gravelly voice purred, vibrating straight through to my bones. "It seems your gold can't buy you out of everything. Care to make a trade for your life? What do you want?" I demanded, scrambling backward on the plush rug. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, but I forced my spine straight. I hadn't clawed my way back from hell to cower before a masked intruder, even one who had just saved my life. The man in the silver mask slowly sheathed his massive broadsword. The sheer aura radiating from him felt like the oppressive heat of a desert storm, dangerous, suffocating, yet undeniably commanding. "You're a merchant, Lin Yao," he drawled, taking a slow step toward me. His dark eyes glinted with a predatory amusement. "I trade in blood and secrets. You trade in silver and silk. Let's make a deal. I keep you breathing and you fund my private enterprise." "I don't even know who you are," I sneered, pushing myself to my feet and smoothing my crimson robes. Why should I trust a mercenary hiding behind a demon mask? He closed the distance between us in a blink, his towering frame forcing me to tilt my head back. He leaned down, his breath brushing my ear. "Because, Madam Chen, while you were busy breaking your husband's nose, I intercepted an urgent missive. Qin Mingzhi isn't just trying to steal your treasury. He has secretly pledged your father's northern grain reserves to the Third Prince's rebellion. If that grain moves, you and your entire 9 generations will be executed for treason." A freezing wave crashed over me. Treason. That was why I had been executed so swiftly in my past life. The poisoning of the concubine was a farce. The real crime was treason, neatly pinned on my lowly merchant shoulders to protect the real conspirators. Qin Mingzhi and Lin Wan'er were sacrificing my blood to buy their way into the imperial family's inner circle. "How much?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. The masked man let out a low, approving chuckle. 500,000 taels. Up front. And in return, I will provide you with the ledger proving Qin Mingzhi's signature on the grain transfer, alongside 30 of my finest elite guards. "Deal," I spat without hesitation. To a normal merchant, 500,000 taels was a lifetime's fortune. To the Lin family, it was a drop in the ocean. And my life was worth far more. Ding. Host has engaged with a high-level Destiny character. Analyzing. Analysis blocked by unknown interference. Warning. This character's aura suppresses your remaining 6% Phoenix Fate. Proceed with caution. I ignored the system's panicked flashing. Deliver the ledger to my private study by midnight. Now get out, before I decide to charge you for the hole in my roof. The man laughed again, a rich, deep sound that made a strange warmth pool in my stomach. Ruthless. I like it. See you at midnight, little merchant. He turned, his dark blue cloak billowing, and leaped through the shattered ceiling, vanishing into the gray afternoon sky. I didn't have time to process the encounter. Xiaoya rushed into the room, horrified by the rubble. "Clean this up," I ordered, stepping over a chunk of mahogany. "And bring me the ledger of the Qin family's monthly expenditures." It was time to cut the purse strings. By nightfall, the Qin manor was in chaos. I sat in the main courtyard, wrapped in a thick sable cloak, a cup of steaming ginseng tea in my hands. The courtyard was illuminated by dozens of glowing red lanterns, casting long, dramatic shadows. Before me stood 30 of the most terrifying, battle-hardened mercenaries I had ever seen, silently arranged in perfect formation, my delivery from the masked man, who had also left the treasonous ledger on my desk exactly at midnight. Presently, the gates to the courtyard were thrown open, and 2 mercenaries dragged in Qin Mingzhi. He looked pathetic. The blood had dried on his ruined nose, and his usually immaculate robes were stained with sweat and dirt from his time locked in the study. Behind him, 2 other guards dragged a sobbing Lin Wan'er from the woodshed. She was covered in soot, her White Lotus persona genuinely battered by the reality of sleeping on firewood. "Lin Yao," Mingzhi bellowed, struggling against his captors. "This is mutiny. You are a madwoman. Release me at once, or I will write a letter of divorce right now." "Please do," I said, taking a delicate sip of my tea. "But before you do, let's discuss your debts." I tossed a thick ledger onto the stone pavement. It landed with a heavy, satisfying thud. "For the past 3 years," I announced, my voice echoing loudly enough for the gathered servants and mercenaries to hear, "I have funded the Qin household. From the food you eat to the bribes you pay your superiors in the Ministry of Rights." However, I noticed a discrepancy. Mingzhi froze. Wan'er stopped crying, her eyes darting nervously toward the ledger. It seems, I continued smoothly, that Lord Qin requires an astronomical amount of rouge, silk, and fertility tonics for his political networking. 5,000 taels a month sent to a hidden estate in the western suburbs. The servants gasped. A hidden estate? I stood up, the crimson silk of my dress catching the lantern light like fire. Bring them in. The heavy courtyard doors opened again. For women, dressed in flashy, cheap silks, were herded into the courtyard by my mercenaries. They were crying, clutching children of varying ages. Mingzher's face drained of all color. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. How did you? Did you really think my father's intelligence network vanished just because he died? I lied smoothly. In reality, the system had pinpointed the location of his secret harem the moment I leveled up from slapping him. For hidden wives. 3 bastard children. All living like royalty on my dime, while you complained that my imported velvet divan was gaudy. Sister, Wan'er cried out, crawling forward. Mingzher is a man, it is normal for him to have concubines. You're a merchant, you cannot understand noble customs. You must be generous and accept them. Generous. I walked down the steps, my embroidered shoes clicking against the stone. I stopped in front of Wan'er and smack. The force sent her sprawling to the ground. A bright red handprint blossomed on her pale skin. Accept them. I grabbed her by the hair, hauling her up to look me in the eye. You speak of noble customs? What noble custom allows a man to siphon his legal wife's dowry to fund his horse? And you, little sister, you've known about them all along, haven't you? You helped him hide them, plotting to use them against me once you stole my position. Wan'er whimpered, tears spilling from her golden-flecked eyes. Notice, target Lin Wan'er is attempting to use stolen luck to trigger a pitiful rescue event, the system warned. Right on cue, the heavy wooden doors of the courtyard were kicked open. Halt! A booming voice thundered. An elderly woman, dripping in jade jewelry and flanked by heavily armed city guards, marched in. It was old Madame Qin, Mingzher's mother. Behind her stood none other than Magistrate Lu, the corrupt official who had ordered my execution in my past life. Mother! Mingzher cried, falling to his knees. Save me! This poisonous shrew has gone mad. She broke my nose and kidnapped my concubines. Old Madame Qin glared at me with pure venom. You filthy merchant whelp! How dare you lay a hand on my son? Magistrate Lu, arrest this woman for unfilial conduct, assault on an official, and jealousy. She is unfit to manage the Lin wealth. As her mother-in-law, I will take custody of the golden abacus. Magistrate Lu stroked his beard, eyeing my mercenaries nervously, but his greed won out. Lady Lin, you have violated the 7 sorrows. Surrender the abacus, and I may spare you a public flogging. The 4 hidden wives began to weep loudly, pointing at me. She's a monster. She dragged us from our homes. Wan'er buried her face in old Madame Chen's skirts. Auntie, she is insane. She beat me for merely seeking shelter. The courtyard was a powder keg. The city guards drew their swords. My mercenaries tightened their grips on their weapons. The system screen flashed urgently. Quest triggered. Humiliate the old crow and the corrupt magistrate. Reward, plus 10% Phoenix Fate, plus 500 system points. Title, Iron Merchant. I threw my head back and laughed. It was a loud, unhinged, magnificent sound that made the entire courtyard fall dead silent. Arrest me? I wiped a tear of mirth from my eye. I turned to Xiaoya. Bring the contracts. Xiaoya, trembling but resolute, stepped forward with a stack of parchment. Magistrate Lu, I said coldly. Before you arrest me, perhaps you should arrest old Madame Chen for grand larceny. What nonsense is this? The old woman squawked. I snatched the top parchment and held it up. This is the deed to the Qin family ancestral home. Mortgage to the Lin family bank for 200,000 taels. Defaulted 3 months ago. I grabbed another. This is the loan for Lord Chen's bribery, gift to the Ministry of Rights. 50,000 taels. Defaulted. I threw the papers into the air, letting them rain down over Mingzher and his mother. You arrogant parasites. Your entire existence is funded by my charity. As of this morning, I have foreclosed on every single debt. The Qin ancestral home belongs to me. The clothes on your back belong to me. Even the carriage you rode here in belongs to me. Magistrate Lu turned pale. He knew the Lin family bank controlled half the capital's economy. If I called in my debts, half the officials in the city would be ruined. You can't do this. Old Madame Chen shrieked, clutching her jade necklace. You are married into our family. Your wealth is our wealth. Wrong, I said, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. My dowry is protected by imperial law. And since your son, I pointed at Mingzhi, has secretly committed treason by pledging my grain to the Third Prince's rebellion, I am officially cutting all ties. The word treason dropped like a bomb. Magistrate Lu staggered backward. Treason? I pulled the ledger the masked man had given me from my sleeve and tossed it at Lu's feet. Look for yourself. Lord Chen's signature and seal, pledging 50,000 share of grain to the rebel army. Mingzhi stared at the ledger, his eyes rolling back in his head. No, that was a secret. How did you? Guards. Magistrate Lu shrieked, his voice cracking an octave. Treason was a crime that involved the execution of 9 generations. If he was caught protecting Mingzhi, he would die too. Seize Lord Chen. Seize the old madam. The city guards, previously aiming their swords at me, instantly swarmed Mingzhi and his mother, pinning them to the ground. Lin Yao, you bitch. Old Madame Chen screamed, thrashing wildly. You set us up. I merely brought your sins to light, I said, looking down at them like the trash they were. I turned to Wan'er, who was frozen in horror, trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. As for you, sweet sister, you aren't part of the Chen family yet. You are just a refugee. Yaoer, Wan'er sobbed, crawling toward my feet, her hands clasped. Sister, please. I am innocent. I knew nothing of his treason. Don't let them take me. I smiled, stepping on her delicate fingers with the hard sole of my embroidered shoe. She shrieked in pain. I won't let them take you, Wan'er, I whispered down to her. That would be too easy. I want you to stay right here in the capital. I want you to watch as I take back every ounce of luck, every piece of destiny, and every tale of silver you stole from me. You want to be a beggar? Let's make it official. Ding. Phenomenal face slap. Scum family bankrupted. Treason exposed. White Lotus utterly humiliated. Reward, plus 10% Phoenix Fate reclaimed. Total, 16%. 500 system points awarded. Host has acquired the Iron Merchant aura. I felt a sudden, massive surge of energy flood my veins. The sickly weakness that had haunted me for 3 years evaporated. My vision sharpened. I felt invincible. As the city guards dragged Mingzhi and his screaming mother out of my courtyard, a slow, sarcastic clapping echoed from the roof. I looked up. Sitting casually on the ridge of the roof, illuminated by the full moon, was the masked mercenary. His long legs dangled over the edge, and he held a jug of my finest, most expensive vintage wine. Bravo, little merchant, his gravelly voice drifted down, laced with dark amusement. A flawless performance. But you do realize, exposing a prince's rebellion means the imperial family is now going to come for your head. I crossed my arms, the Iron Merchant aura making me stand tall and utterly unafraid. Let them come. I have 5 million taels in cash and 30 of your best mercenaries. I can buy an army. The masked man laughed, leaping down from the roof. He landed silently right in front of me, leaning in so close I could feel the heat radiating from his armor. You can buy an army, he whispered, his eyes gleaming through the silver mask. But can you buy a prince? What do you mean, buy a prince? I demanded, not stepping back despite his overwhelming proximity. My newly acquired Iron Merchant aura bristled against his suffocating presence, 2 tigers testing the boundaries of a single cage. Before the masked man could answer, the heavy wooden doors of my manor, barely rehinged from the city guard's departure, violently exploded inward. Splinters rained across the courtyard. My 30 mercenaries instantly drew their steel, forming a defensive ring around me. Through the dust and debris marched a column of the Imperial Dragon Guard, clad in terrifying golden armor. These were the Emperor's personal executioners. They parted like the Red Sea, making way for a figure radiating arrogant authority. It was the Third Prince Zhao Chen. He was flanked by an entourage of terrified capital officials, including a trembling Magistrate Lu. But what made my blood run cold was the person clinging to the Third Prince's arm, weeping softly. Lin Wan'er. How? I had literally crushed her fingers under my shoe 10 minutes ago. Warning, the system chimed frantically. Target Lin Wan'er has expended 50% of her stolen, Protagonist Luck, to trigger a Deus Ex Machina rescue. Of course. The destiny swap. She was still coasting on my stolen Phoenix Fate. Even ruined and humiliated, Fate would twist reality to throw a powerful man into her path. Lin Yao. The third prince's voice echoed with imperial thunder. He was handsome, but his face was twisted in an ugly sneer. You audacious, venomous shrew. You dare frame my loyal subordinate, Qin Mingzhi, for treason using forged ledgers? And you dare assault this fragile, innocent girl? Wan'er looked at me from behind the prince's golden shoulder, a triumphant, malicious smirk playing on her lips, hidden from Zhao Sun's view. She had traded one scum for another, instantly upgrading from a third-rank official to a prince. Forged. I scoffed, ignoring the 50 crossbows the Dragon Guard had leveled at my chest. Your Highness, the ledger has his official seal. The grain is sitting in my northern warehouses. You can verify it yourself. Silence. Zhao Sun barked. A lowly merchant dares talk back to royalty? Qin Mingzhi was merely securing grain for disaster relief, and you, in your petty jealousy over his concubines, spun a web of lies. And to cover your tracks, you hired these illicit thugs. He gestured dismissively at my mercenaries, completely failing to notice the masked man leaning casually against a pillar in the shadows. Zhao Sun pulled a golden imperial edict from his sleeve. By the authority of the crown, the Lin family wealth is hereby confiscated by the state to fund the disaster relief. Lin Yao, for the crime of framing an official and attempting to ruin a royal charity mission, you are sentenced to immediate execution. The courtyard erupted. Xia screamed. My mercenaries gripped their swords, ready to die for the silver I had promised them. Wan'er stepped forward, her golden-flecked eyes shining with venomous joy. Sister, I tried to tell you. You can't fight fate. You are just a merchant. I am destined for the palace. Give up the golden abacus quietly, and His Highness might let you keep your head. I stared at her, the sheer absurdity of her plot clicking into place. The third prince didn't care about Qin Mingzhi. He needed my 5 million taels to fund his rebellion, and Wan'er had just handed him the excuse to take it by force, using my supposed treasonous frame-up as justification. System, I whispered in my mind. If I die now, do I lose? Host currently possesses 16% Phoenix Fate. Total wealth, 10 million taels. If Host can outbid the Imperial Treasury in the next 60 seconds, the Absolute Wealth Protocol will activate, nullifying the third prince's authority. Outbid the Imperial Treasury? The Emperor possessed the wealth of a nation. Seize her. Zhao Sun roared. Kill the mercenaries. Take the treasury keys. The Dragon Guards surged forward. Wait, a voice rumbled. Low. Gravelly. Bored. The masked man pushed off the pillar. He didn't draw his massive broadsword. He simply walked through the line of my mercenaries, straight toward the charging Dragon Guards. Who goes there? The captain of the Dragon Guard shouted, halting his men. The sheer oppressive aura radiating from the masked man made the elite Imperial soldiers hesitate. Third brother, the masked man sighed, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. You always were incredibly loud, stupid, and greedy. It's a miracle you haven't choked on your own ambition yet. Zhao Sun froze. The color drained from his arrogant face so fast he looked like a corpse. Who? How dare you address me? The man reached up and unclasped the silver demon mask. He tossed it onto the stone floor, where it shattered with a loud crack. The face revealed beneath was devastatingly handsome, sharp and lethal, with eyes like obsidian glass and a jawline carved from granite. But it wasn't his looks that caused the collective gasp of horror from the Imperial entourage. It was his identity. The Crown Prince. Magistrate Lu shrieked, instantly dropping to his knees and smashing his forehead against the ground. Long live His Royal Highness! The entire courtyard, the Dragon Guards, the officials, my mercenaries, and Xiaoya dropped to their knees in a massive wave. Even the wind seemed to stop. Zhao Sun stumbled backward, trembling so violently his golden armor clattered. Crown Prince Zhao Chen? But you're at the northern border. You've been there for 5 years. Crown Prince Zhao Chen. The Tyrant Prince. The god of war. The man rumored to drink the blood of his enemies and single-handedly keep the barbarian hordes at bay. He was a myth, a monster to scare children with. And he had been playing mercenary in my courtyard. I stood frozen, the only person not kneeling. The man I hired for 500,000 taels is the Crown Prince. Zhao Chen didn't look at his brother. He turned to me, a smirk playing on his lips. You didn't kneel, little merchant. I paid you 500,000 taels, I blurted out, my brain short-circuiting. You work for me. To the absolute horror of everyone present, the terrifying god of war threw his head back and laughed. Fair point. A contract is a contract. He turned his glacial gaze back to the third prince. Zhao Chen. You dare use the Dragon Guard to seize civilian assets without an imperial decree? You dare collude with a traitor like Qin to hoard grain for a rebellion? Brother, it's a misunderstanding. Zhao Chen squeaked, his arrogant bravado entirely shattered. This woman, she forged the ledgers. She is a vicious shrew who beat her sister. Zhao Chen raised an eyebrow, looking at Wan'er, who was currently curled into a trembling ball on the floor. Forged. Zhao Chen reached into his armor and pulled out a stack of letters. I intercepted your courier 3 days ago. I have your handwritten letters to the rebel generals, promising them the Lin family's grain. I also have the confession of Qin hidden wives, confirming he was funneling bribes to your inner circle. Zhao Sun's knees buckled. He collapsed onto the stone. No. No. Guards, Zhao Chen commanded, his voice cold as death. Arrest the third prince for high treason. Strip him of his title. The dragon guards, who only moments ago were ready to kill me for him, instantly turned on Zhao Sun, dragging him away as he screamed for mercy. I watched numb as the crisis evaporated. Wan'er was left kneeling alone in the center of the courtyard, stripped of her final protector. She looked up at Zhao Chen, tears streaming down her face, attempting one last, desperate use of her stolen charm. Your Highness, she wept, crawling toward him. I was forced. I am innocent. Please, have mercy on a fragile girl. Zhao Chen didn't even look at her. He simply raised his boot and planted it firmly on her shoulder, shoving her backward into the dirt. Don't touch me, he said in disgust. You reek of stolen luck. He knows? I stared at him. Ding. Massive system override. Target Lin Wan'er's Protagonist Luck has been utterly shattered by an overwhelming imperial aura. Reclaiming Phoenix fate. 50%. 80%. 100%. Congratulations, host. You have reclaimed your golden Phoenix fate. A blinding, invisible light erupted from my chest. A phantom cry of a mythical bird echoed in my ears. The lingering sickness, the shadow of doom that had hung over me, vanished completely. I felt radiant, untouchable, regal. Wan'er screamed, clutching her chest as if she had been stabbed. Her flawless, sickly sweet beauty seemed to physically wither. Her hair lost its luster, her golden eyes turned muddy and dull. The stolen fate had been violently ripped from her, leaving her with the meager, pathetic destiny she was actually born with. My luck, my destiny. She babbled, staring at her hands. I was supposed to be Empress. I was supposed to. Throw her in the capital dungeon, Zhao Chen ordered his men. Put her in the cell next to Qin. Let them rot together. As Wan'er was dragged away, screaming my name in despair, silence descended on the ruined courtyard. I looked at Zhao Chen, my mind racing. Why? Why did you help me? A crown prince doesn't play mercenary for pocket change. He stepped toward me, closing the distance until I had to tilt my head to look him in the eye. Without his mask, his gaze was devastatingly intense. Because Lin Yao, he said softly, his voice dropping so only I could hear. 10 years ago, a little merchant girl found a starving, wounded boy in an alleyway during a winter festival. She didn't know he was a prince escaping an assassination attempt. She just gave him her entire purse of silver, bought him a hot bun, and told him to survive. I gasped. The memory hit me like a physical blow. The dirty boy in the alley. The boy with eyes like obsidian glass. I swore I would return to repay the debt, Zhao Chen continued, his hand reaching out to gently trace the jawline that had nearly been severed by an executioner's blade in a past life. But when I returned from the border, I found you married to a parasite, your light dimmed, your destiny stolen. He leaned in closer. I was going to kill him for you. But it seems rebirth made you far more entertaining. My heart stopped. He knows about the rebirth. Zhao Chen smirked at my panicked expression. He took a step back and loudly addressed the trembling magistrate and remaining officials. Magistrate Lu. Why yes, your highness. Lu squeaked. Draw up an imperial marriage edict, the crown prince commanded, his voice echoing with absolute authority. The Lin family wealth will not be confiscated. It will be combined with the imperial treasury. Because as of tomorrow, Lin Yao, the iron merchant, is officially the crown princess. The courtyard erupted into gasps of shock. I stared at him, my mouth slightly open. You can't just decree that. I just did, he smiled, a predatory, possessive smile that promised a lifetime of chaos and passion. You bought my life for 500,000 taels, little merchant. Now I am giving you an empire. I'd say that's a profitable trade. Ding. Main quest complete. Bankrupt the Scum. Humiliate the White Lotus. Reclaim the Phoenix Fate. New ultimate quest unlocked. Empress of the Trading Routes. Partner. The Tyrant Crown Prince. I looked at the blue screen, then at the devastatingly handsome prince who had just flipped my world upside down. I thought of Qinmingzhi and Wan'er rotting in a damp cell, realizing that their pathetic attempts to steal my destiny had only paved the golden road to my ultimate triumph. I smiled, my iron merchant, aura blazing as I stepped forward and grabbed the lapels of his midnight blue armor. A profitable trade, Your Highness? I whispered, pulling him down slightly. We'll see. But be warned. I drive a hard bargain. Zhao Chen's eyes darkened with raw desire. I wouldn't expect anything less. As we close this novel with Lin Yao's triumph, her story leaves us with a profound truth about our own lives. How often do we, like the past life Lin Yao, pour our energy, our resources, and our love into people who only view us as a treasury to be looted? How often do we dilute our own value, hoping that our silent sacrifices will eventually earn us the respect we already deserve? Lin Yao's journey reminds us that true reclamation doesn't just happen when the universe hands us a second chance. It happens the moment we decide to stop playing small, stand tall in our own power, and raise our own golden abacus against those who try to diminish us. In your career, your relationships, and your daily life, remember who built the foundation. Do not let those who entered your empire on credit treat you like a tenant. Walk forward with the pride of a queen, and let the world adapt to your worth. Remember these 3 lessons. 1. Never fund someone else's ambition at the cost of your own security. Emotional parasites will use your generosity to build empires that they will eventually lock you out of. 2. Own your skills and wealth proudly. Do not allow others to make you feel ashamed of your background or label your hard work as cheap or lowly, while they secretly benefit from it. 3. You do not need a literal rebirth system to change your life. You simply need to withdraw your consent from bad situations, call in your emotional debts, and demand a profitable trade for your energy. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment on your favorite face-slapping moment, and join us for our next epic tale of destiny reclaimed. Until next time.